Hey everyone, my name is Nick Brodnicki from the American Heart Association, and this is an Oregon and Southwest Washington Hard Hats with Heart training focused on nutrition today. And for today specifically, I'm going to be speaking with you, the leadership surrounding all the trades and industrial careers in our community, all about food, drink, and how nutrition is a critical element to your business's productivity and longevity. And let's set the stage. Let's talk about three things we're going to chat about over our 10-ish minutes together here. So the first thing is, why is change worth it? Why should nutrition be a part of your management and leadership? The second piece is going to be, well, let's chat about who needs to be brought in to make change. How does this sort of thing actually happen? And then third, let's talk about how to talk about nutrition. Just because we all want something to happen doesn't mean it happens in the way our teams need to hear it. We know that across the board in any industry. So we always love to ground ourselves in the why we're talking about these things. And it is absolutely no secret that an industrial career is hard. These careers are physically and mentally demanding. They require early start times, long hours, strenuous activity, and often the nutrition that we consume, it's what's on hand either before, during, or after the workday. It's not always the healthiest. And while we know that cardiovascular disease disproportionately affects construction industries. And that's why the American Heart Association created this initiative to engage industrial workers with our hard hats with heart, well, across the country. But today, we're going to focus in on Oregon and Southwest Washington. So if we take a couple of stats and we pull them into our community, we know that there's an average of 2,300 Americans dying from cardiovascular disease every day. And when we start to boil that down, it's actually about it's over 200,000 construction workers. That's like 1 in 25 that have been diagnosed with cardiovascular disease. That's putting that into context. That's more than double the number of people who attend the Rose Bowl when we all go to the Rose Bowl in person. But if that's true, and basically 1 in 4 construction workers are categorized as obese, and 1 in 25 of them are diagnosed with diabetes, we can see this train of all of these indicators and factors that relate to people maybe not staying on job sites as long, people maybe underperforming, having issues that are directly attributable to nutrition, amongst other things, that can be changed. They can be improved. People can work through this sort of stuff. So, what can be done? What can you, as a leader in the industry, do? Well, that first piece for the doing is the collective work. It's got to happen from a couple different angles. And just by listening to this, well, you're participating in one of those angles. Participation also does mean showing up consistently to the dialogue, wherever that dialogue is within your particular part of the industry. And you got to make sure that whoever needs a seat at the table has that seat at the table. There's the direct education pieces. There are the round tables with everybody at the top end of the spectrum. There's the policy that can come down, the information and the groundwork that can come up. And when they meet in the middle, a lot of things can be done. When we're talking about all of those pieces, there's a consistency in messaging that is really important to all of our employees, all of our teams, all of the workers on site. And if you want to get real specific on that, that's just about availability too. So if you're telling everybody, we want you to do this, we think this is a good idea, we support you in making better nutrition choices, we also have to make sure that, especially when we have food on site, well, the healthy stuff is available. It's the same thing as safety measures. You make it a protocol, you make it a standard. And if we can frame food and drink in the same light as other critical functions of a job site, it falls right in line for a lot of folks who maybe otherwise don't think twice about that sort of thing. And our own personal actions, your personal actions as leadership, people see those things. So don't forget that when you think about what needs to be done, everybody that works around you, they see your actions and they can speak louder than words, as we've all heard the phrase said before. So if we got that why down and we know what needs to be done, we do need to dig into the how a little bit more. And that's often going to be a case by case piece, but we do know that small changes compound over time. If you think about the smallest protocol you've put in place in a safety briefing and how that has kept the sites that you work on safer for longer, you know that like tiny things, they create large impact over time. So I'd ask the question, what small change can you make to model the pressing need that improving nutrition, improving the food availability on site, whether in your office settings or on your job site, that's a pressing need. So that's the first part of how. The second part is, well, how can you work with experts and vetted science from an organization like the American Heart Association to support your workplace culture? Well, this is one way you're doing right now by listening to this and sharing the craft version of this message for nutrition. But how can you go a step beyond that? What fits within your company culture, or how can you evolve the company culture and the worksite culture so that you can bring in more people that folks will listen to? It's food for thought there. And there's a couple of questions I'd like to leave you with as we work through this nutrition piece. You know, think about how you feel about your own food and drink choices in a workday. Do you feel like you could do a little bit better at that? Do you feel like you're meeting your nutritional needs? Do you feel like what's available on site or what you bring to site is helping you sustain your energy throughout the day? Or are you crashing? Do you always craving something? When you think about those, you might be able to pinpoint some of the ways where maybe you're not getting the nutrition or you're not providing the best nutrition, and you're like, oh, this is something we can level up. So that's the first question. A second question is there anything you think you could improve to just feel better more often? That's just around the culture of the job sites and the offices that you're in. Do any of those things go back to the food that's available to people or the food in general that you're consuming? So speaks to that first question, but it kind of expands upon it in a different way. And then, when we talk about feeling better, the Heart Association would want to ask, well, what's holding the job site back? Do we feel like there's difficulty with retention right now, or that there have been some heart attacks, which we never want to hear that on a job site, or there's some medical issues happening in families where more nutrition education or more more nutritious access on job sites could help scale back some of the things that are holding those sites back. Some of those questions to think about there. So before we end our time, well, there's always next steps, right? What are we going to do about this? We've got that why down. We all know that. You're listening here, so you're aware of the why. We talked through a little bit of what probably needs to be done in some cases, and it's all going to look a little bit different for everybody. And then how we might approach that, some of the questions we can ask to start making some of these changes. So the first next step is what more questions can you ask, both of those the craft workers on your teams, the other leadership, and those above you, right? Anybody, what questions can you ask them about their nutrition and how they think it affects their job performance and the company's performance as a whole? So that's the first one. The second thing, how can you continue to use the Heart Association from Oregon and Southwest Washington, our resource hub for hard hats with heart? How can you continue to use and leverage those resources to be able to level up the nutrition of your job sites and create that culture that moves towards the better, more nutritious future where everybody's staying productive, being able to work through less downtime, less injuries, less potential health incidents? And then the last piece, what to do, is how can you keep sharing this content? Who can you get this sort of a message from leadership in front of? And for the other video cast this time on nutrition, how can you share that with some other folks within your teams? So these are challenges that they can be approached however it best fits for you within your time, but make sure you take a step back and think about, how can I do this? Is this something that's really important here? Okay, maybe it is. Who can I talk to? When can I show up to conversations? And let us know. Let the Heart Association know where we can jump in there, what questions you have. We appreciate everything you're doing, and we know for leadership, it's just as difficult on a lot of these sites and on a lot of these projects. There's a lot to do, and it's very time consuming. And this is an added piece, but it's meant to be a helpful added piece. So thank you so much for listening in on this Hard Hats with Heart training related to nutrition. I hope you've gotten a lot of nuggets of wisdom out of here and things that you can take back to what you're doing. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And until next time, stay well, and we will see you soon.